Good morning everyone. Good day pala. Um, welcome sa klase natin, General Sociology. Sociology 111, right? So, start the class. General Sociology. So, nakapunta ka na ba sa isang lugar kung saan madaming tao? So, tignan mo yung picture natin. No? So, ang daming tao. At ang malala pa doon, wala kang kilalang tao. So, ganun ba? Nakapunta ka na ba dyan? Maybe, birthday ng pagari mo or birthday ng pinsan mo. Or birthday ng kahit sino mang kilala mo, pero wala kang kilalang tao. And why is it na isang tao nakakapag-adapt pa rin no, sa lugar niya? No? Nakaka-relate pa rin. So ito na yung idea ng sociology. Kasi by nature, persons learn to adapt. Siguro na i-imagine niya at na i-studyhan ninyong environment niya, pero ito talaga yung point ng sociology. Sociologists try to study and let us understand paano tayo makarelate sa environment natin. Kaya siguro may mga lugar na nakapunta tayo na wala tayong kilala pero we still try to relate. And welcome to our class, Sociology. So, let's have this Module 1, Introduction to Sociology. So, what is sociology? So, the dictionary defines sociology as the systematic study of society and social interaction. The word sociology derived from the Latin word socios, which means companion, and the Greek word logos, which means study. All in all, the study of companion. So we try to study each one of us. We try to study mga tao which we accompanied with. Yung mga nakakasama natin. At ito yung nature ng sociology. So, of course, kung merong tao, meron ding lugar kung saan tayo nakaka-learn sa mga taong yan, saan tayo nakakapag-adapt sa mga taong yan. And that is the concept of society and culture. So sociologists study all aspects and levels of society. A society is a group of people whose members interact, reside in a definable area, and share a culture. So oftentimes pala, yung isang society kasi meron niyang kultura. Example, in a Christian area, where Christian is the culture there. In a Maranao area, in a Muslim area, the culture there is Maranao. Of course, hindi mo talaga mahiwala yung concept ng society and kultura. Kasi lahat naman yata ng society, even in all world, meron tayong culture. And a culture includes the group shared practices, values, and beliefs. Pag masasabi natin society, the connotation here is there is an area, a space. A culture is there is a belief, a practices, and a values shared by people who are in a specific area or by people who are in society. So, how do we adapt these people? How do we get to this kind of concept? Of course, we have sociological imagination. Sociological imagination defined as how people or an individual understand their own and others' past in relation to story and social structure. So, oftentimes, sinasabi natin, no, pag meron tayong pupuntang isang lugar, no, before, when I was nasa lugar pa namin, pupunta ako ng Marawi para mag-aral, inistedihan ko muna ano yung culture ng MSU. And that, for me, that happened, that is sociological imagination. I just imagine something, ito pala yun. I understand the own, ito pala yun nangyayari, ito pa yung past in relation to the history and yung social structure, kung ano yung society meron ang Marawi. So, yun. Next is history of sociology. So, the term sociology was first coined in 1780 by the French essayist Emmanuel Joseph Sieyès, and in 1838 the term was reinvented by Auguste Comte. So si Auguste Comte na talaga yung nakilala natin. Parang kung iba yung nag-coin, pero yung nagpasikat talaga ng term na sociology ay si Auguste Comte. Comte named the scientific study of social patterns positivism, that using scientific methods to reveal the laws. So ito na yung positivism, na kailangan talaga ma-explain lahat by using scientific methods, revealed by law. Hindi lang pwedeng haka-haka lang. Ito yung idea ng positivism. Karl Marx rejected Comte's positivism. He believed that societies grow and change as a result of struggles of different social classes over the means of production. So ito yung idea ni Karl Marx. he was more on economic aspects of society, Karl Marx. Kasi maybe societies believe that kulang yung society or even a culture without the bloodline, the blood life. They call it money. So ito yung idea ni Karl Marx. Ito yung tumatakbo sa society. Yung tao nagpapakahirap because of money. At nakita niya tong idea, no, na-invent niya tong idea ng capitalism. Capitalism as an economic system, kaya economist si Karl Marx, characterized by private corporate ownership of goods and the means to produce them grow in many nations. So ito yung nakita niya, na yung capitalism, mga kapitalista yung namumuno. No, namumuno dito, nagpapagrow ng pera. At dahil dyan, struggles happened. Different social classes over means of production, result of struggles. Siguro nakikita naman natin siguro ngayon na yung mga mayayaman nagdo-dominate talaga. Oftentimes, nagkakameron ng problema. And this is the idea of capitalism. So, in conflict theory, isa to sa mga idea. Capitalism, the idea of Karl Marx. Well, because of that, no, because there is capitalism, of course, a problem, meron ding solution yan sa capitalism. Here's this idea of communism. It's an economic system under which there is no private or corporate ownership. Everything is owned communally and distributed as needed. So kung makikita natin, sino ba yung mga komunistang nation? We have China. And I guess, Russia. So, the idea pala doon, walang private ownership. Nung walang private ownership, all is owned by the government. Hindi naman siguro absolutely lahat or 100%, pero ito yung idea. At kung makikita natin ngayon, itong idea ng communism is that sobrang powerful niya. Yung mga country na may idea nito, nagpa-practice nito is, makikita natin, powerful countries. The next concept of sociologists is Antipositivism. Approach led to some research method whose aim was not generalize or predict traditional in science but systematically gain and deep understanding of social worlds. Kasi kung makikita kasi natin yung communism and capitalism was more on economic part sa society natin. Especially din anti-positivism. Parang one point lang yung nakikita. Pero yung anti-positivism, hindi. Dapat lahat talaga makita natin. An in-depth understanding of social world. And also, quantitative sociology believes that and uses statistical methods such as survey with large number of participants. So, paano natin ina-understand or paano natin malalaman ang isang bagay? Of course, we have to do surveys, statistical methods. And this is quantitative sociology. We use talaga survey. Quantity talaga, no? Hindi yun quality. So, next is qualitative sociology. It seeks to understand human behavior by learning about it through in-depth interviews. So, quality yung hinahanap. Hindi paramihan yung idea kasi ng qualitative sociology, kundi kung anong gusto mong i-study talaga, kahit maliit lang na tao. You try to qualitatively study that, not by numbers, but the behavior by learning about it through in-depth. For example, yung mga qualitative research ay inistudihan mo yung understanding ng mga tao. Yung quantitative is paramihan talaga, quantity, hindi quality. The next is this theoretical perspective. So, kasi lahat ito theory. Of course, we cannot claim ito 100%. Lahat to theory, and we believe that sociology is a profession because it has theoretical perspective. So, ano ba yung theory? So, it is a way to explain different aspects of life. Of course, we have this theory na, yung tao pala, example theory of communism ni Karl Marx, yung mga tao pala na inapi ng mga mayayaman, may possibility na mag-aklas. Yan yung communism. And that is a theory. So, of social interaction and to create testable proportions about society. Now, what now is social solidarity? Describe social ties and bind a group of people together in a kinship. So, yan na yun. It is in the culture. Kasi pag masabi kasi natin kultura, of course, close yan eh. We have this culture of close family ties. And that idea includes social solidarity. Na naging solid yung isang tao. No? Next is in a macro level. So, pag tinitest kasi natin yung isang theory, isang idea, we test them, hindi lahat-lahat. No, we try to limit ano ba talaga yung scope ng theoretical perspective natin. What is macro level? So in macro level, it attempts to answer fundamental questions in a large scale relationship. Kalakihan. So in social work, let's say, what is a macro level? We say in a nation. What is a macro level? We say in a community. Here comes the micro level. What is a micro level? Theories that are other end of the scale can be very specific. Example, kung ang macro level natin is community, yung micro level natin might be a family. Yung micro level natin as a social worker might be the family or the individual itself. So let's have this sociology. We have this sociological theories or perspective. It has different sociological perspective, enable sociologists to view social issues through variety of useful lenses. So, ano ba yung mga perspective ng mga sociologists? The first perspective is functionalism, also called structural or functional theory. So, structural functionalism sees society as structure with interrelated parts. So, nakikita niya yung society as having interrelated part. For example, in a cliche or an example sa body natin, ang daming system sa body natin, digestive system, nervous system, central nervous system. So, it sees society as having different parts, and that parts work each other para maging isa yung society, para maging buo. Yan yung idea ng functionalist. Function as structures. In a healthy society, all these parts work together to produce a stable state called dynamic equilibrium. And what is social facts? Are laws, morals, or values, religious beliefs, customs, fashions, rituals, and all cultural rules that govern social life. Sabi nga ni Durkheim. What is function? Function of any recurrent activity as part it plays in the social life as a whole and thereby the contribution it makes. So para siyang role. So parang siyang role and function. So ginagampanan ng isang tao, ginagampanan ng isang society, that means function or activity as part it plays in social life. We can also call it role. Di ba nga as tayong mga tao, we have this social role. It means we do have function. But we have another also called manifest function, are the consequences of social processes that are sought or anticipated while latent. So yung manifest function pala, yung nagmamanifest sa isang tao. Ine-expect na natin na ito yung function niya. Example, ine-expect na natin na ikaw talaga yan. Example, ama ka. So ine-expect na natin dyan na ito yung function mo, ito yung role mo. So that's your manifest function. It manifests on you. What is latent function? And are sought consequences of social. So ito na yung consequences, no, ng function natin. Social processes that have undesirable consequences for the operation of society are called dysfunction. So of course, pag yung isang tao hindi na nagpa-function, no, matatawag na natin siyang dysfunctioning. Paano na naman natin sasabihin ng isang tao ay may function? It defends sa social role niya. Example, estudyante kita. Tapos, your function is to answer all our activities, to participate. At pag nakita ka ng instructor mo, hindi to nagpa-participate. Therefore, sa role mo as a student, you are now becoming socially dysfunctioning. So, yun. We have this another concept is the conflict theory. Another theory which with a macro level view called conflict theory looks society as competition for limited resources. So, pasok din dito yung concept ni Karl Marx na capitalism. Nagkakameron talaga ng conflict, no? Nagkakameron ng competition. Example sa isang society. Pag may conflict talaga, pag may mga problema diyan, no, common 'yan. And yan yung nakikita ng conflict theory na sa lahat talaga ng society, meron talagang conflict na mangyayari. Ano bang conflict? The economic conflict, napasok sa idea ni Karl Marx, capitalism. Yan yun, in competition of resources, limited resources, of power and authority. Yan yung conflict theory. How about symbolic interaction theory? So, meron kasi tayo sa society, of course. Society natin, we interact. We are also interactionist. No? But, how we interact people depends on our culture. Sometimes sa culture natin, we have this language. We have these symbols. we have this perspective is centered on the notion that communication or the exchange of meaning through language and symbols is how people make sense. So ito na yon, how people communicate, how people interact through the symbols, through the language, through the communication in a society. This is called socio-symbolic interactionism theory. Okay? Next is dermatological analysis. Use theater as analogical for social interaction and recognize that people's interaction showed patterns of social, cultural scripts. So, nakikita natin yung mga telenovelas ngayon. May mga movie, may pinapanood tayo. That is dramaturgical analysis. So, pinuportray ng mga niyan, kung ano yung mga nangyayari sa society natin. Itong dramaturgical analysis. So, ito na yon. Paano malalaman oftentimes ng mga sociologists na nangyayari yan? And it's better para malaman natin yan, i-act natin yan using dramaturgical analysis. Maybe sa college natin, meron tayong mga variety show. And oftentimes, yung mga pinapa-act sa atin is yung mga concept na napapanahon sa society natin. So, this is dramaturgical analysis. For example, maybe nanonood ka na ang probinsyano. Nanonood ka dyan, kung makikita natin yung ang probinsyano, yung mga concept dyan is parang nangyayari talaga, no? Or na-experience talaga ng society natin. It's din to. It's like they are dramatizing what is happening. But in this case, dramatizing in a purpose para malaman natin yung katotohanan. In a purpose of theory or law or in the purpose of study. So, ito yung dramaturgical analysis. And the second concept natin is sociological research. So, kasi itong sociology, hindi lang to haka-haka. Ito yung nangyayari sa society, okay? We can conclude, therefore, no. Sociology is a profession. We are following scientific method. Paano natin kinukonclude ang isang bagay, ang isang theory, ang isang idea? Of course, we are using sociological research. At ito na yung scientific method. No? Kasi hindi pwede sa science kasi yung mga opinion lang natin. As a sociologist, as a sociological research, we are using empirical evidence, meaning evidence corroborated by direct experience observation. Kinukombine natin siya, scientific method or interpretive framework deliver sound sociological research. Kailangan talaga ng research. Kaya nga siguro inutusan tayo ng mga instructor natin na dapat madaming reference para talaga hindi tayo bias sa research natin. At yan yung ginagamit natin scientific method. So maybe you are familiar to this, no? So first, maybe in your scientific method, you ask a question or hypothesis. You conduct research, you go to research, existing sources, tinitignan mo yung libraries, other resources, para makakita ka ng ibang references. Next is formulate a hypothesis from your question. Next, design or conduct an experiment. Pag may result na, you can draw conclusion and you can report that result. So, ano yung tinitignan sa research pala? We have this reliability. How likely research results are to be replicated if the study is reproduced. Reliability increases the likelihood that what happens to one person will happen to all people in a group. So, ito na yung reliable. In terms of reliability kasi, nangyayari ba yan baka bias kayo, baka nangyayari lang yan sa isang tao, sa isang group of people. Being reliable is of course, na-experience ng mga tao. They are able to reproduce that kind of results na nakikita yan and we can say that it is reliable. Example, nag-research ka ng isang part ng group at nakita mo rin sa isang part ng group. We can say that it is reliable. So, ang mangyayari dyan, people can also replicate or gagawin din nila yung research mo as reference kasi totoo tong research niya kasi na-experience din to ng ibang tao. So, reliable na yung research mo because people, nangyayari yan sa kanila. Next is validity. Validity which refers to how well the study measures what it was designed to measure. For example, yung mini-measure mo is sociology. Tapos, iba yung lumabas sa research mo. More on business siya or more on nangyari parang psychological yung dating. It is not valid. Invalid yan. Kasi nga, sociology, i-studyhan natin, ibang lumabas sa research mo. Iba yung na-measure ng study mo. So, it is already invalid. So, ito yun. Kung sociology yung ini-studyhan mo, dapat yung lalabas yun sa study mo is yung ano yung ini-studyhan mo lang. No, hindi ka nalalabas kung ano yung dinesign mo lang na target mo talaga. And that is now valid. Okay? So, next is, ito na yung process, ask a question. We have this operational definition, that is, they define the concept in terms of physical or concrete steps it takes to objective measures. Of course, no, kailangan mo talagang i-define no, yung concept mo in a term na malalaman niya objective in a way na we can measure it. So, makikita natin pag nagre-research yung ang mga tao kasi, yung researcher, in-advisean siya, oy, na-measure ba to? Can we define these terms in a physical or concrete steps? If hindi naman, maybe we are failed to this part. Next is research existing sources. So, ito na yon. So, we are researching other literature in library or in other sources in the internet, in other books, or we are observing, we are doing surveys. Kasi nga, we have to make sure na itong research natin, meron nang say yung ibang expert dito. Next is, you can formulate now hypothesis. Yung ibang tao, nauna yung hypothesis bago yung finding sources. So, you are formulating now an assumption about how to more variable your research. It makes conjectural statement about relationship between those variables. In sociology, hypothesis will often predict, ito yon, sociological research, how one form of human behavior influence another. In research, independent variable are the cause of the change. Independent variable is the effect or thing that is changed. So, ito na yon. Example, yung hypothesis mo. The greater the availability of affordable housing, the lower the homeless rate. So, kung mura lang daw yung bahay, no, liliit daw yung homeless rate. So, kuan mo dyan, yung murang bahay, yan yung independent variable mo. So, ang dependent variable dyan, of course, pag mura yung bahay, ang dami mo na assumption dyan. Maybe kung murang bahay, maraming may bahay. At liliit yung chances ng homeless rate. Another example is that greater availability of math tutoring, higher math grades. So, pag marami daw yung tutor sa math, ay tataas yung math grades. No? So, yung independent dyan is yung maraming tutor, nakadepend dyan yung assumption na lalaki yung math grades. And so on, to our examples, no? An interpretive framework, sometimes referred to as an interpretive perspective, seeks to understand social worlds from a point of view of participants reading in-depth knowledge. So, ito na yon, no? Of course, sa idea talaga natin, we have to really interpret in a view na ma-understand siya natin. No, in a view na ma-understand natin as researcher at ma-understand din siya ng participants in an in-depth manner. We have this research method or Horton effect. So, example, people changing their behavior because they know they are being watched as part of the study. So, of course, pag ini-studyhan mo yung isang tao, baka magbago yung isang tao kasi nga nakikita mo siya. So, may research din yan na nung nilalagyan nung nagsimula yung lagyan ang mga offices ng CCTV camera, it's a sign na being watched sila, tinitignan sila. So, tumataas yung porsyento na naging productive sila kasi nga, it changed their behavior kasi sa tingin nila, may nakatingin sa kanila. At yan yung isang research method na Horton effect. No, na nagbabago kapag may nakatingin sa'yo. Parang may nakakontrol sa'yo indirectly. Isa pang research method natin is survey. So, nagsusurvey ka, you are collecting data sa mga participants mo or sa mga subject mo. Ito yung mga series ng question mo about behavior, about their opinion, about the statement, using in a form of questionnaire. So, in social work, meron tayong survey forms, no? Ang tinitingnan natin yung socio-demographic profile ng estudyante natin. So, tinatanong natin, ano mang pangalan mo? Sino yung kuan mo? nanay mo, anong edad mo, using questionnaire. Okay? So, ito na yon sa example natin. Survey target a specific population. So, ito na yon yung specific population. Pag malaki yung aspect yan, yung macro level, yan yung population natin. Pero, since maybe in a lack of budget, hindi natin kayang lahat talaga ng tao sa mundo, meron lang tayong random sample or mga sample ng tao. Example, magre-research tayo about sa mga mahirap sa buong mundo. So, titignan lang natin yun doon, hindi talaga lahat ng kahirapan, no? Maybe at some point lang, mayroon tayong titignan doon na ang mga naghihirap ba ay nagugutom. So, hindi mo na kailangan pa i-research na lahat ba talaga naghihirap, nagugutom, kasi maybe in a simple sample lang, malalaman mo na talaga. You can also conclude na totoo yung research mo by using sample. So, we have here random sample. Every person in a population has the same chance of being chosen. So, sa random sample kasi, namimili ka lang, random lang. So, lahat may tsansa. Hindi ka namimili hindi mo sila ina-assign. So, we have also here quantitative data, no, quantity, research collected in numerical form. So, ito talaga yung nature ng quantitative data. Example, yung research mo is, ang kailangan na data mo is quantitative. So, kailangan paramihan. Numbers, kasi yung concept kasi dyan, numbers don't lie. Isa pa, qualitative data. Result, although may number naman talaga, hindi naman talaga zero, results that are subjective and often based on what is seen in natural setting. So, hindi lang siya nakapokus sa number. But it's focused on the subjective aspects. Hindi lang siya focus sa objective. Of course, kasi may mga concept kasi na subjective. Meaning, hindi mo siya na-assess ng number. So, you have to go deeper, personally, individually, at yan yung qualitative research mo. Isa pang research method natin is interview. So, yung interview, meron din ditong questionnaire, pero it's more on face-to-face talking, dialogue. So, interview is one-on-one conversation. It's talking, no, between researcher and the subject, and is way of conducting surveys on a topic. So, ito talaga yung concept ng interview. Oftentimes, yung interview kasi, isang tao lang, yung tinitignan natin, yung tinatanong natin. Field research. So, field research refers to gathering primary data from natural environment. So, ano ba yung mga field research? Sabi nga dito, without doing a lab experiment or a survey. So, masasabi natin yung mga geologist, yung pumupunta talaga sa ice age or sa mga bundok o sa mga lupain na yan. Kasi nga, they have to be in the field para makapag-research sila. Hindi pwede na panaginipin lang nila yung research nila. They have to be in the field. And we call it field research. It's gathering data in a natural environment talaga. Kaya kung matitignan natin yung mga field researcher, no, kailangan talagang pumunta sa lugar na yan para malaman, malaki yung sweldo nila. Kasi nga, oftentimes din kasi yung mga field researcher natin, risky din yung trabaho nila. Much of the data gathered in field research are based not on cause and effect, but on correlation. And while field research looks for correlation, its small sample size does not allow for establishing a causal relationship between two variables. Rothman had conducted a form of study called participant observation in which researcher joined. So, isa din to sa research method, yung participants observation. Now, of course, yung researcher talaga sumasali, no, sa mga participants niya, no? May it be alam ng participants na researcher pala yung kasama nila, merong ganyan, nasa kagrupo pala ng mga participants, uy, nakasali doon yung researcher. Yan yung participant observation. Ino-observe yung participant na nag-o-observe din pala participant, pero researcher siya. Na maybe yung mga researcher dyan, alam ng participant at saka in secret, and yung iba, secret lang, no? So, ethnography is the extended observation of social perspective and cultural values of entire social setting. Involves subjective observation of an entire community. So, ito na yon, no, observation of social perspective in an ethnographic culture. Case study. So, in a social perspective, kasi case study, sometimes researcher wants to study one specific person or event. Kasi yung case study kasi, in-depth analysis kasi siya of a significant event, situation, or individual. So, pag kinakonduct to ng researcher, ini-examine niya talaga hindi lang yung existing sources like documents or archival records, but also engaging direct observation and even participant observation. In social work, no, hindi lang ini-interview natin yung mga client, nagtatanong pa tayo sa mga kapitbahay nila, nagtatanong pa tayo sa mga records sa barangay, sa PSA, kung totoo ba to, at isa pa, nag-home visit yung mga social worker. So ito na yung participant observation in a social work perspective. Ito na yung case study natin. All in all na to. All in all research method, pasok dito sa case study. And we have also this experiment, meaning, of course, we are investigating relationship to test na yung hypothesis natin, totoo talaga. Secondary data analysis. So, hindi siya primary, no? Secondary siya. While sociologists often engage in original research studies, they also contribute knowledge to discipline through secondary analysis. So, itong secondary data analysis does not always have to be first-hand research. So, oftentimes, yung mga researcher dito na gumagamit ng secondary data analysis, yung mga data nila is na-publish na, kompleto na, yung sa kanila lang siguro yung mga critic. So, ito yung mga critic. Example, we have a lot of authors. We call them critic. No? Wala silang ambag sa idea. Yung ginagawa nila, secondary data analysis. Yung mga datang tapos na, kinikritik lang nila. So, ito yung ginagamit nila, yung mga nagawa ng data, mga kompleto na. And sociologists might study works written by historian. Nagawa na by histories, by economists, teacher, and other fields. So, parang, siguro thesis natin dito sa Marawi, pag nag-thesis tayo, we are maybe using secondary data analysis, na kinukuhan lang natin yung idea ng iba, at yung thesis natin, kinikritik na lang natin yung research nila. So, yun. Non-reactive research, meaning that it does not include direct contact with subject. So, non-reactive research. So, since non-reactive siya, meaning, hindi ka naka-direct contact sa people mo. No? So, content analysis, applying systematic approach to record and value information gleaned from secondary data. So, yun lang ngayon. You are basing your research on a content already had. No? At hand na siya. And, of course, in research natin, no, hindi talaga mawawala yung ethical concerns. Kasi hindi porket mag-research ka dyan, tapos hindi ka pala sumusunod sa Code of Ethics. For example, ano ba yung Code of Ethics? Formal guidelines for conducting sociological research. Example, pag nag-research ka, lahat pala ng research mo, kinlay mong sa'yo. Pero kinopy-paste mo lang pala. So, na-plagiarize ka. Posible ka makulong dyan, especially if you are in academe. So, it consisting of principles of ethical standard to be used in disciplines. Example, nag-research ka, tapos hindi mo kinote yung isang author, tapos na-publish na yung kuan mo, tapos pag search mo, kayo lang dalawa yung lalabas, na i-debate na yan, sino ba yung may-ari dyan, at pag nalaman na hindi pala ikaw yung may-ari, ninakaw mo pala yung ideyang yun, ay posible kang makasuhan, at posible ka pang makulong. Now, of course, value neutrality, the practice of remaining impartial, kasi oftentimes kasi, sa mga researcher kasi, parang dinidiscourage kasi yung nagre-research ka sa culture mo. Especially maybe ang result mo if positive. Kasi hindi mo lang siya ipapublish kasi sa culture mo lang. Pag na-research mo na yung culture mo. Of course, it means i-publish mo talaga siya sa whole academic field. So meaning, makakabasa dyan yung ibang culture. And since bias yung research mo, well, you are not being neutral. So, ito din yung kalimitan ng researcher kasi pag culture nila, pag malapit sa loob nila, nagiging partial sila. May iba nga, pag yun yung gusto nilang ilabas sa research nila, yung iba yung naging resulta, dinadaya nila yung research nila. So, I hope, no, everyone in the class is maging convinced talaga na importante yung research natin kasi nga naglabas yung CHED memorandum CHED ng isang statement na ngayon ng panahon daw nung may lumabas na ranking ng mga university, no, ang liit ng ranking natin in schools. At isa sa mga dahilan pala dyan, maybe lack of credentials sa mga instructor, at isa pa dyan yung research. Yun nga, mahina tayo sa research. Kasi, aminado din tayo na pag-research talaga is mahirap, no? Maybe magasto. But I encourage you, no, na to pursue research. Kasi nga, even though magasto yung research, it is still an opportunity, no? No, mabubuhay ka pa rin dyan. Kasi nga, pag researcher ka talaga, of course, babudgetan ka. Kasi nga, hindi ka lang mapapagod, no, utak yung ginagamit mo. So, I hope everyone is learning through our video right now, and I hope to see you soon. So, thank you.